Hello and welcome to the sixth video of the section, Understanding Typescript and Module Loaders. In the previous video, we saw how to use different transpilers with module loaders. In this video, we will see the TypeScript annotations for our application to create component views and directives. We're going to take a look at component and views and TypeScript annotations for components and directives. Let's talk about basic things of components. A component knows how to interact with its host element. A component knows how to render itself. A component configures dependency injection. Components are simply directives that are always associated with a direct template. The main objective of these decorators is to allow us to add metadata to our application that will tell Angular 2 how to process a class. Let's check different annotations that we will be using. We are going to decorate our class by adding @component metadata to tell our application how we want our components to behave. When building Angular components, we are able to configure the following options. @view. Define a view for a component using template or template URL. @directive. To create a directive which can be used with the component to modify the existing DOM. @inject. This is used to inject the service inside the component class. @routeConfig. This is used to define UI routing of Angular components. Our first annotation, @component. When building Angular components, we are able to configure the following options. Selector. This defines the name of the HTML tag where the component will live. In this case, our component will be shown through the >my-app greater than >my-app greater than tags. Template. This is the portion of our component that holds our template, or we can opt to use template URL to link to our external template. Providers. This is where we pass in any services that we want a component to access. Directives. We use the directive option when we want to access another component directive. Styles. The style option is used to style a specific component. One of the advantages of using components is their ability to encapsulate their styles. An attribute directive changes the appearance or behavior of a DOM element. There are three kinds of directives in Angular: components, structural directives, attribute directives. A component is really a directive with a template. It's the most common of the three directives, and we tend to write lots of them as we build applications. Structural directives can change the DOM layout by adding and removing DOM elements. ng-for and ng-if are two familiar examples. An attribute directive can change the appearance or behavior of an element. The built-in ng-style directive, for example, can change several element styles at the same time. Let's create attribute directives to change the style of our component. We begin by importing some symbols from the Angular core. We need the directive symbol for the @directive decorator. We need the element reference to inject into the directives constructor so we can access the DOM element. After the @directive metadata comes the directives controller class, which contains the logic for the directive. We export color red to make it accessible to our components. Angular creates a new instance of the directives controller class for each matching element, injecting an Angular element reference into the constructor. Element reference is a service that grants us direct access to the DOM element through its native element property. That's all we need to set the element's background color using the Browser DOM API. Great job! This is how we have created our first directive using @directive annotations. In our component, we are using color red as directive to apply style changes. Now we are able to understand the components and directive annotations and their differences, and how to create directives to update DOM property. Here we have covered creating DOMs and creating directives, and using them with components. Now we can start building our application. In the next video, we'll talk about creating baseline for our application.